Welcome to Grip Grind Glory, where grapplers train with purpose and grow through the grind. And now, your host thought-provoker and fellow grinder, Anna Janovics.
Hello, my dear friends. This is Anna, your host, and this is our very first episode of Grip Grind Glory, where I'd like to introduce you to the premise Grip Grind Glory was built on. So, let's go. So, I started judo very late in my life, you might say, but I believe I was right on time. My dream at the age of 40 was that I would be able to learn something new and be the best version of myself through this martial art. I had been having this pull, this knowing inside me that I wasn't done becoming who I was meant to be, that there's so much more in me I couldn't reveal before. And even though I'm a long-time athlete, over 30 years now, I never thought judo would be the next big thing for me, but I quickly realized that it will be. Background story for that is that my husband has been in judo for over 40 years. He's a coach. He was an elite athlete in the sport back in his youth. He's never done anything else, but it was always a thing he did and I didn't do. I had my own things, own sports and interests. However, there came a time when I just felt I had to give it a go. And so I did. And I fell in love with it straight away because it's something very different to what I've ever done. And also because it's so complex that I just couldn't not love it. But also, I guess the main reason for me was that it made my brain cells revive. I had to tough up mentally big time and physically as well. So it's a hard sport, and that's probably one of the reasons why I like it so much. I had been in the personal development space for like 8 years, so I had done this kind of mentally toughen up work pretty much, or so I thought. But judo made me realize that I was nowhere I wanted to be. So as time allowed, I went to trainings, and in between I did work in the gym as well, which meant for a while that I did 1 judo session a week and 2 in the gym, weights and that kind of stuff. And even though I'm pretty strong to my age and other circumstances, I very quickly realized that I'm lacking skills in many different areas. So it's not really my technique, which takes a very long time to nail, but it's these other areas which, if I improve technique or the learning of it, would be so much easier. I'll give you an example what I'm talking about. It took me quite a bit of time to get a good grip. A strong one that's sort of unbreakable. And as I said, I'm strong, but I didn't have this strength in my hands anymore. So I had to start and work on that specific thing. So when I'm in a fight, I can move people around as I need to. Now, I only know and have been able to learn so many throws, but with this particular skill of mine, it got easier to get into position and do what I wanted to do. It's a process, it's still not perfect, but considering I've only been doing it for a year and competed recently, which was my very first competition, in a cohort of 4, all green belts and myself with white, I was able to win 2 matches with Ippen. And I'm 41, they were in their 20s and below, well below, so that's pretty decent, I say. And all this journey, the past 8 years, I'd say has been leading up to this realization that judo could be the thing where I test my mental strength now. And that's because I started it late. So I face a lot of hurdles I didn't have to before. To put it into context, I did kayaking for 8 years in my teens, and then mountain biking, cross country for about 6 in my 20s. And then I just stuck with the gym to keep fit. But both those sports required me to endure, and both of them are very demanding sports. However, because I was young back then, it was just second nature. I never had to think twice about anything. I just did the trainings and more and competed and rinse and repeat. But now, in this phase of my life, there are so many things that are constantly coming between me and being disciplined that it's really hard to stay on track and stay focused. And so I felt like this is when all I know from my personal development work will have to be deployed. And some might say it's easy for me because I have a coach in my house I can rely on, and we have our own dojo where I can train and things like that. But in reality, it's not about these things. It's not about your training regime or the space, because those are readily available to anyone these days. What I find is that it's about, as I said before, the mental strength, resilience, and the community. That we support each other, which are the two things that are the hardest to earn or make work. And this work I'm doing outside of the dojo, both mentally and physically, is not something that's part of the curriculum, right? It's something I do because I know that it accelerates my growth on every level of my being. And I find that a lot of people in this space could benefit of it, to improve a certain areas of their skill set, their mindset, and have a community that backs them up. So the whole idea of Grip, Grind, Glory was born on the premise that we as a team can actually support people like us, or rather like me, getting somewhere in their martial art journey and get there with intent, understanding why they are here, where they're going, and how they'll get there, and how they'll get there quicker without getting any younger. And when things get tough, they have a community to pick them up and help them come back to their path and keep going. I'd also like to invite you all to redefine what success means to you. I find it really useful for me to set goals and find my motivation to achieve them and reach back out to them when things get tough. I'll pop in the show notes the link to my work on goal setting and how to stay motivated, and I'll also expand on it in the next episode. To put it into context, I went to my first competition, I just mentioned, with one goal in mind, which was not to stop mid-movement. Now, I'm an overthinker, so I have this tendency to stop in a fight when I decide my technique is no good, to either check every single part of my body is where it should be, or just refrain from the technique completely, stop and restart, which I know will improve by time, but now it puts the spanner in the works, obviously. So I was very focused on the flow, and to be fair, except for one fight, I did follow through with everything I started in that comp, and so I was very content with how it worked out for me. I practically reached my goal because I didn't go there to win. And so Grip, Grind, Glory exists because people like you and me are changing the story. We train with jobs, kids, injuries, doubt, and full-on lives. And I guess there's a general perception in society that in sport, you have to start early to achieve meaningful results. But let's define meaningful result in the first place. We don't train to prove we're the best, or are we? I believe we train to become better than we were yesterday, physically, mentally, emotionally, and it will eventually lead to becoming the best version of ourselves, and that's all you need, and all this world needs. So I'd like to invite every single one of you to join me on this journey of becoming our best versions by training with purpose and grow with grit, knowing that it's a long journey, but it's one worth fighting for, I say. And if you're still listening, if you're still with me, if this speaks to you, if you've ever felt left behind, if you have ever looked around and thought, is it too late for me? Or if you're tired of shallow motivation and want something real, then welcome. You've found your place. New episodes will drop weekly. We've got a live challenge starting in September, the kind that trains your body and your mindset. Please check the show notes for the link. And thanks for listening today. Please follow us here on your podcast listener, on social media. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. I also would like to hear from you. Where are you in your journey and what do you think? So please leave a comment, drop me a line. Let's start the conversation and let's keep it going. I'll see you next week, and until then, let's grip, grind, and glory.